Hello, welcome to Scrap Time. My name is Christine, and in this video I'm making a card using the Cosmo Cricket Pixie Paint and the Waffle Flower Lacey Flower dies. In this video I'm going to show you how to make these cards, and we're going to start by making some paper using the Cosmo Cricket Pixie Paint and then cut it using the Waffle Flower Lacey Flower dies. So when I'm making some watercolor paper, I like to use paper that's in these pads because it holds your paper flat. But you can use any watercolor paper to do this. It doesn't have to be a pad like this. And I start by spritzing it with water. And I do that so when the pixie paints hit the page, they are already starting to absorb. And later on, if I hit them with water, they don't fly all over the place. And I have a few different colors. I'm going to start first with Harbor. And these are like pigment powders. So you sort of just hold them sort of straight and tap them on, and you should be able to see the color. You don't want to go too much or else you'll get a big whoosh of it like that. So I'm going to stop with that color for now. And then I'm going to go in with some ruby. Now what's different about these pixie paints compared to some of the other ones out there is within one color, they have added a few other colors. So the blue would have a little bit of pink and yellow in it, and the red will have a little bit of blue, and it just gives you a different gradation of colors when you're doing a project. So I'm going to go back to a blue, and this time I'm going to add Pool. Now because I am working under hot light, some of my water absorbs. So I'm going to come back in with some water. And where there was bigger areas too, I'm going to So before I add the next one, I'm just going to swoosh this around a bit. I don't want it to totally blend because I don't want all one color. I want all those different colors still to be there. But just I'm going to So every time you do this, it's going to look different, right? Because you have no idea where your colors are going to go and blend. So it's just a matter of playing around. So next I'm going to add in some candy. And I'm going to go around the edges where there's the bit more white happening. Whew. So sometimes you get a big thing like that. So what I can do here is just, and I can even just take my finger and blend it out a bit if there was a whole bunch in one area. And then when I go in with the water again, it'll mix. So I think at this point I have so much water going on, I should dry some of that water, and then as I add more water, I'm going to dry it to absorb some of these big pools here of water. And then we can maybe add in some more color. So it's still a little wet, but that's okay. We got a lot of that moisture off there. So we can start again. So over here where it has a lot of white, I'm gonna focus there to see if I can get some color. The reason why the corners are hard is because even though it's in the pad, your paper will still wrinkle a bit. Not wrinkle, but move a bit. So we have a bit of blue there. I think over here I'm going to put a bit of blue. So you can see it's rolling down rather than rolling up. I want you in there. But I like the little dots too, because those dots add texture. So down here, I'm going to add in some of the candy, I think. You just want to hit it till it starts to pop up. I can even just spray this and then with my finger sort of fill in some of that white. I might do that down here. Oh, maybe the color will actually go down there. And then down here we can use a little bit more color. I think I'll switch. Now, I'm not thinking so much of an overall page. It all depends what you're using this for. You can always cut this up and use it as card backgrounds. That would be beautiful. But because I'm cutting it into such small sections, I'm not so concerned about what the overall looks like. I just want some different colors blending together in texture. Now, I'm happy with the overall color, but what I'm going to do now is just see if I can get some of those just little dots around. So I think that's pretty good. So all I'll need to do now is completely dry it and it'll be ready for cutting out. So I took the paper off the pad and here we have our completed sheet. It's not completely dry, so I would probably either let it sit or dry it more before using it. But I already have some cut, so we will move on to the next segment. So Waffle Flower has these two die sets. This is the Lacey Flowers and the Lacey Flower Mats. So these dies sort of sit on top of these dies. And that is what I used. So you have the mats that are the solid, and you can see that's what I cut out of the paper. And then the Lacey Flowers, which are super pretty, I cut out of white. Now I did try cutting the Lacey Flowers out of the watercolor paper, but because of all the fine detail, I found it didn't work very well. I didn't try though, when you're cutting these really fine detail dies, a lot of times if you put a layer of wax paper between, you put the die, the wax paper, and then your paper, it will help release the die and its little bits as well. So that was one thing you can try, but so I decided I would cut the flowers out of just the nice white cardstock and then the mats out of the paper we made. Now, there's so many different patterns, there's so many different ways you can layer them. So here, I did a white with the colored and then a lacy flower. There's a matte with a different one. And so you can mix and match in so many different combinations. So I'm going to use a matte for this one. And then I'm going to put on this flower on top of it. I'm using my Scotch Quick Dry adhesive. It should, ooh, yeah, it's working now. And I just sort of put some in the middle and then lay it onto the card. And then that part that comes through, I'll add a little bit more. Ooh. Now it's really flowing. So what I'm going to do, since I have so much glue, is take some of that and put it on that part there, and then stick it down onto this mat. And then, since I still have so much glue, what I'm using is the Mayflom's 28 Lilac Lane. And I'm going to just use one of these little flat back pearls. And put a bit of glue there in the middle and glue that down. And then I can take this and just place it on top of there. Move on my extra pieces I can make more cards with. Then I already prepared a card here and I wrote just a note with some calligraphy. And I can put a bit of glue on the back of this. My glue that's decided now is just going to flow out. And position that. You could glue it all down. I like to just sort of glue the middle and leave the sides sort of up. It gives it a little bit more dimension. And like that, we have our final card. So with the pixie paint, I mean, you can use that paper for anything, but I like to just make some paper that I can use with my dies, and then you get some really interesting die cuts. And layering it with the lacy flower dies from Waffle Flower makes this really pretty card. Thanks for watching. Be sure to give us a thumbs up and like our video, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Scrap Time Videos. See you next time. Bye-bye.